Martha, to all outward appearances, was a paragon of compassion. She meticulously ran a home for the elderly, tending to their every need. She cooked their meals, offered gentle care, and even respectfully laid them to rest when their time came. Yet beneath this veneer of saintliness lay a chilling secret, known to no one. Her acceptance criteria were disturbingly specific. She welcomed only those elderly individuals with no family, no children, no close kin. She knew with a predatory certainty that no one would ever come looking for them. And once they crossed the threshold of her home, they were destined to remain forever. This profound antipathy Martha harbored for the elderly was no sudden onset. It was a malignancy that festered within her, a wound that refused to heal, growing slowly and painfully since her childhood. At the tender age of 10, after her parents tragically perished in a car accident, young Martha found herself consigned to the care of her grandfather. He was a retired army man, hardened and bitter, and he was far from alone. Sharing his cramped dwelling were two of his equally grizzled friends, also former soldiers. Together, this trio presented a formidable, chilling front, old, undeniably cruel, and utterly cold-hearted. From the very moment she stepped into their lives, Martha's existence was reduced to that of a slave. Before the first hint of dawn, her grandfather's roar would shatter the morning quiet. "Wake up! Sweep the house! Cook the food! Fetch the water!" There was no room for error, no mercy for childhood clumsiness. If she was late, a beating awaited her. If the meal lacked the precise amount of salt, the lash came down. Even an innocent cough, too loud for his liking, would earn her a brutal strike. His friend, Mr. Dada, proved to be no less a tormentor. He would often demand his special pepper soup, a dish Martha meticulously prepared. Yet he never once offered her a taste. "Children don't need meat," he would declare with smug satisfaction as he noisily sucked the bones clean and licked his greasy fingers, leaving her with nothing but hunger and humiliation. But it was Mr. Oh-Ho who was arguably the most insidious of them all. Unlike the others, he never resorted to physical blows or bellowing commands. Instead, when no other eyes were present, he would engage in actions that disturbed and confused young Martha deeply. Things she instinctively knew were wrong and she intensely disliked. She couldn't fully comprehend the nature of these transgressions, nor did she know where to turn for help. When she finally mustered the courage to confide in a neighbor, the woman's response crushed her spirit. "Old people are like angels. Don't lie against them." With that dismissal, Martha learned a painful lesson in silence. Her tears flowed unspoken, her meager meals were consumed in secret, and each night her fervent prayers were for the swift arrival of the day she could finally escape this living hell. The moment she turned 17, Martha fled, vanishing without a backward glance. She found refuge in another town, securing a modest job washing dishes at a roadside restaurant. She toiled relentlessly, meticulously saving every coin, all the while keeping the harrowing memories of her past deeply buried within her heart. By the age of 35, her tireless efforts had yielded enough capital to acquire a small building. She christened it the Peaceful Rest Home for the Elderly, publicly declaring its purpose was to shelter those forgotten by the world, the familyless and the homeless. The community lauded her, churches showered her with donations, and NGOs offered their unwavering support. They hailed her as a saint, a true humanitarian. Yet Martha herself knew the truth. Her actions stemmed not from benevolence, but from a searing desire for revenge. By day, she presented a facade of warmth, offering gentle smiles to the residents, carefully preparing their meals and endearingly calling them Papa and Mama. But with the descent of night, her deeply ingrained hatred resurfaced with chilling intensity. Each furrowed wrinkle on their faces, every gnarled hand, every trembling, fragile voice filled her with a profound nausea, resurrecting the specters of her past tormentors. "You all deserve this," she would whisper into the darkness, her voice laced with venom. "You're just like them, useless and wicked." For years, her cruelty was limited to sharp shouts or a callous disregard for their desperate pleas. But a turning point arrived during one particularly harsh, dry season. Funds dwindled, donations ceased to flow, and Martha found herself increasingly weary and hungry. It was then that Mr. Leek passed away. He was 82, frail and blind, having arrived only 2 weeks prior, claiming he had no family and nowhere else to go. Martha had taken him in, her intention being to allow him to slowly wither away, just like the others. However, his demise arrived sooner than she had anticipated. That evening, Martha stood staring, her gaze fixed unsettlingly upon his cold body on the bed. Her stomach rumbled, a ravenous protest against the emptiness within. There was no food in the house, and the taste of meat had been a forgotten luxury for days. A chilling thought, as dark and sharp as a blade, pierced through her mind. Meat is meat. With a brutal resolve, she dragged Mr. Leek's cold body to the back room, securing the door with a definitive click and set to work. Years ago, she had toiled in a butcher's shop, and her hands, with their grim muscle memory, knew precisely what to do. The process was swift, silent, and horrifically efficient. Soon the air was filled with a surprisingly sweet aroma. She had cooked the meat with fragrant pepper and onions, transforming it into a rich, steaming soup. That night, the other elderly residents of peaceful rest consumed it with unbridled joy. "This meat is so tender," one murmured, savoring each bite. "What kind is it?" another inquired, eyes wide with delight. Martha merely smiled, a predatory gleam in her eyes. "Don't worry," she purred. "It's special." The very next day, a portion of that special meat found its way to the local market. Martha confidently presented it as rare bushmeat, supposedly sourced from a hunter friend. To her satisfaction, it sold out within minutes. It was at this moment that her entire business model shifted. She now had a perverse, lucrative reason to accept more elderly residents, but only the truly forgotten ones. Only those with no family, no visitors, no shred of hope left in the world. Martha became meticulously careful. Her smiles broadened, becoming more frequent and disarmingly warm. She erected a sturdy fence around the home, publicly declaring her desire to protect her beloved residents. In truth, it was a barrier designed to keep prying eyes out, not to keep the old people safe. Her search for new clients grew bolder. She traveled from town to town, seeking out elderly beggars on the streets. "I want to help them," she would say, her voice dripping with feigned compassion. People were deeply touched by her apparent kindness, but once she brought these unfortunates into peaceful rest, she would simply watch and wait. When they fell ill, no doctor was ever summoned. When they complained of a crushing chest pain, she would offer a serene smile and a gentle, "Just rest, Papa." Then, the ritual would begin. She would boil water, sharpen her knife, and patiently await the cover of night. The following morning, without fail, there would be fresh meat, and nobody ever dared to ask questions. Martha's unassuming shop outside the home quickly became a sensation. She didn't sell every day, choosing only special occasions. But whenever her stall was open, people rushed in, eager to buy. "This meat is sweeter than cow meat," customers would exclaim. "Where do you get it from?" She would simply smile, her secret safe, and reply, "It's a family recipe." Her dark plan was now functioning perfectly. Money flowed in, her heart remained steeped in bitterness, yet she felt an intoxicating sense of power. She was feeding people, earning respect, and exacting her chilling revenge, all in one macabre act. Martha's meat business flourished. On every market day she chose to sell, people queued up, eager to purchase her sweet, tender meat. She greeted each customer with a warm smile and respectful words, even offering small extra pieces to her regulars. Not a single person harbored the slightest suspicion. One scorching Thursday morning, a sleek black Jeep glided to a halt in front of her shop. A tall, impeccably dressed man, radiating an aura of wealth, stepped out. He was a familiar figure in the village, known to own 4 houses, 2 supermarkets, and a hotel. Yet no one had ever witnessed him at the local market before. That day, however, he walked directly to Martha's meat stall. "I've heard your meat is the best," he stated, a pleasant smile on his face. Martha, surprised by his presence, returned the smile. "Yes, sir. It is fresh. You can try it." He purchased a generous portion and requested that she prepare it for him then and there. Martha, a flicker of excitement in her eyes, swiftly cooked a spicy meat pepper soup. When Mr. James took his first taste, his eyes widened in genuine astonishment. "This is the best meat I've ever eaten," he declared. Martha let out a soft, knowing laugh. "It's a special recipe," she confirmed. From that day onward, Mr. James became a frequent visitor. Sometimes he would sit in her backyard as she cooked for him, the rich aroma of her special soup filling the air. Other times, he arrived bearing gifts of money. "Use this to support your business," he would insist, not merely offering cash, but also tangible building materials, bags of cement, stacks of tiles. Soon, the peaceful rest home underwent a remarkable transformation. A fresh coat of paint brightened. Its exterior, new iron beds, replaced the old, and quiet fans hummed in every room, circulating cool air. The villagers spoke in hushed, reverent tones, declaring, "God has truly blessed Martha." Yet, none of them suspected that this newfound prosperity stemmed from something far more complex and far darker than mere business. Martha, in a shocking turn for her guarded heart, began to fall in love. She had never known such tenderness, never experienced a man caring for her in this profound way. He praised her cooking with genuine admiration. He listened attentively to her every word, and he even shared intimate stories from his own youth. For the very first time in her life, Martha felt truly special, deeply cherished. One evening, as they sat together in the quiet intimacy of her backyard, Martha finally spoke, her voice a little hesitant. "I want to ask you something," she began. Mr. James, ever patient, simply replied, "Go ahead." She looked at him directly, her question hanging in the air. "You are married, right?" He nodded slowly, confirming her suspicion. "Yes, I am." Martha's gaze held steady. "I can't be your second wife," she declared, her voice firm. "I want you, and only you." Mr. James smiled, a little taken aback by her bluntness. "I can't just leave my wife, Martha," he said gently. Her face hardened, her previous softness vanishing. "Then don't come again," she stated, her words sharp and unequivocal. "If I can't have all of you, I don't want any of you." A silence descended between them. Mr. James remained quiet for a long moment before finally saying, "I will think about it." Days turned into weeks, but the visits didn't cease. In fact, they grew more frequent, more clandestine. Mr. James would sneak away from his home, feigning business meetings, only to find himself in Martha's kitchen, devouring her spicy pepper soup. But secrets rarely stay buried in small communities. One day, the whispers began to spread like wildfire throughout the market. "Have you heard about Mr. James and the meat seller?" one whispered to another. "They say she wants to take him from his wife. That woman is dangerous. She's far too close to him." The gossip flew, swift and venomous, until it finally reached its intended target, his wife Stella. Stella was a tall, strikingly beautiful woman who carried herself with an air of impeccable elegance and pride. Upon hearing the news, a storm of anger and mortification erupted within her. "How can my husband abandon this house and go to that local woman?" she raged, her voice echoing through her opulent home. She didn't hesitate. That very afternoon, she drove her car directly to Martha's meat shop. Stella exited her vehicle, her body radiating fury, and marched purposefully towards the stall. All activity in the market ceased. Every eye was fixed on her dramatic entrance. "Martha!" she shouted, her voice cutting through the hushed air. "Come out!" Martha emerged slowly, her expression placid. "Yes, madam, can I help you?" "So it's true," Stella retorted, her voice trembling with indignation. "You are chasing my husband." Martha's brow furrowed, feigning confusion. "What are you talking about?" "Don't pretend," Stella spat, her anger peaking. "You've been feeding him with your cursed food." At this accusation, Martha's regular customers, who had been observing in stunned silence, began to stir. One man stepped forward, his voice firm. "Madam, please don't speak of her like that," he interjected. "Martha is a good woman. She feeds the poor and helps the old." Another woman quickly added, "She would never do something like that. You must be mistaken." Stella looked around, her initial rage dissolving into a burning shame as she realized everyone was defending Martha. She let out a heavy sigh and took a step back. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice softer now. "Maybe I was wrong." Martha remained silent, her gaze fixed quietly on Stella. "Let's forget everything," Stella continued, a note of desperation entering her voice. "Let's be friends, please." That was the precise moment Stella made her gravest mistake. A faint, almost imperceptible smile touched Martha's lips. "Okay," she said, her voice surprisingly gentle. "Let's be friends." They embraced, and the onlookers clapped, relieved smiles breaking out across their faces. But deep inside, Martha burned with a cold, relentless fire. She harbored no desire for friendship. Her only desire was revenge. That night, Martha sat in her kitchen, her mind a churning vortex of dark thoughts. Her heart felt heavy, burdened by a potent mix of resentment and possessiveness. "I warned him," she whispered to the empty room, her voice barely audible. "I said I wouldn't share. Now she wants to act like we're friends." Her fingers, long and slender, slowly traced the cold, sharp edge of her knife. "You both will regret ever knowing me." Just 2 days after their feigned reconciliation, Stella had grown dangerously comfortable around Martha. She now frequented the meat shop, arriving early in the morning and lingering late into the evening. They shared laughter, even confidences. Yet, Martha's mistrust remained absolute. She could not forget the image of Stella storming her shop, shouting accusations in front of her customers. Nor could she forget Mr. James's lingering indecision. The more Stella smiled, the deeper Martha's hatred burrowed. One chilling certainty solidified in Martha's heart. Stella had to be eliminated. That very afternoon, Stella returned to Peaceful Rest, offering to help prepare meat for the market. Martha handed her a bowl and instructed her to cut onions. Stella complied with cheerful enthusiasm, humming a gospel song as she worked. After the cooking was complete, Martha offered, "Let's eat before you go." Stella, unsuspecting, smiled and took a seat. Martha served her a small plate of pepper soup and a chilled drink. Within minutes, a strange pallor spread across Stella's face. Her eyes grew heavy and she rubbed her temples. "I feel dizzy," she murmured, her voice weak. "My body is weak." "Don't worry," Martha whispered, her voice deceptively soothing. "Just rest on the bed." Stella didn't even manage a reply. Her body slumped forward, utterly devoid of strength. Martha, with surprising force, pulled her by the arm into the back room and firmly shut the door. That night, Peaceful Rest was unnervingly silent. Too silent. The only sound was the low, steady hum of the freezer. By morning, Martha had meticulously erased every trace. The leftover food was discarded, the plate washed, the room mopped until it gleamed. Not a single drop of evidence remained. The next day, when neighbors inquired, "Where's your friend Stella?" Martha simply smiled and replied, "She said she was traveling to visit her sister. I even packed meat for her." Everyone believed her. No one asked further questions. But Mr. James knew, with a terrifying certainty, that something was profoundly wrong. His wife hadn't come home. Her phone was off. She wasn't at her sister's house. He had checked everywhere. He didn't sleep that night, tormented by a growing dread. The next morning, he drove straight to Peaceful Rest. Martha was sitting outside, calmly roasting meat for her shop. The moment she saw him, her heart gave a sudden, hard thud. He offered no smile, no greeting. He walked directly toward her, his face a mask of cold fury. "Where is Stella?" he demanded, his voice a low growl. Martha blinked, maintaining her placid facade. "I told you she left. She said she was traveling. Stop lying!" he roared, his voice erupting. "I know you did something to her, and I swear if I find out—" Martha slowly rose to her feet, her gaze fixed steadily on him. "Are you sure you want to accuse me like this, Mr. James?" she asked, her voice dangerously calm. He pointed a trembling finger at her. "Don't pretend! You told me to get rid of her. You said you can't share me. Now she's missing, and you're acting innocent." Martha's face turned to a sheet of ice. "You should not have come here alone," she said softly, a chilling finality in her tone. Before he could even turn, she swung with brutal force, striking him hard on the side of the head with a metal rod she had hidden behind the door. He crumpled to the floor with a heavy thud. No one heard his choked scream. Within minutes, she had dragged his body inside, locking the door firmly behind them. She took his phone, methodically deleting all call records, then wiped the floor clean, leaving no trace of the struggle. By evening, Mr. James's black car remained conspicuously parked in front of her gate. A passerby noticed it, commenting casually, "He must be enjoying Martha's pepper soup again." Not a single soul suspected that anything sinister had occurred. The next day, the entire town buzzed with the shocking news. Both husband and wife had vanished. Confusion reigned supreme until someone offered a theory. Maybe they ran away. Another quickly added, "Don't forget the wife once shouted at Martha in public. She even accused her of snatching her husband." I remember, maybe the husband and wife took their own lives out of shame. "Yes," a third agreed. "They were embarrassed. Their marriage was already shattered." And just like that, suspicion, once a fleeting shadow, completely bypassed Martha. She stood quietly by her shop, observing the whispered conjectures, watching people construct elaborate lies to reassure themselves. And she smiled. In just 2 short days, both of them were gone. 2 birds, 1 stone. Several days passed since Mr. James's disappearance, yet no one could definitively say what had truly happened. But there was one person who held the final, crucial piece of the truth. His name was Daniel. Daniel was a poor young man, struggling to survive with his younger sister, Blessing. Life was a relentless hardship. They had no parents, no jobs, and barely enough food to eat. Daniel often wandered from house to house, desperately seeking help. On the very day Mr. James vanished, Daniel had been passing by Martha's street when he noticed something peculiar. Mr. James's distinctive black Jeep parked squarely in front of Peaceful Rest. He hadn't thought much of it at the time, but when he later heard the news of Mr. James's disappearance, his heart leapt into his throat. "I saw that car in front of Martha's house that day," he whispered to himself. A chilling realization dawning. Days turned into a week. No one mentioned the car. No one asked the right questions. Daniel, however, found no peace. He was broke, famished, and now desperate. So he made a bold, dangerous decision. He walked directly to Peaceful Rest and knocked hard on Martha's gate. She opened it slowly, her face appearing tired but utterly calm. "Yes? What do you want?" she asked, her voice even. Daniel glanced around, then leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "I'm not here to buy meat." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "Then what?" "I know what you did to Mr. James," he said quietly, watching her intently. Martha didn't flinch, her expression unreadable. "I saw his car in front of your gate the day he disappeared. You didn't return it. You didn't call anyone. You didn't report anything." Still, she remained motionless, not even a blink. "I won't tell anybody," Daniel quickly added, his voice gaining urgency. "I just want some money. I'm hungry. My sister and I are suffering." Finally, a slow, deliberate smile spread across Martha's face. "You're smart, Daniel," she said. Daniel felt a wave of relief wash over him. "Thank you. I didn't come to fight." "I like smart people," Martha continued, her voice soft, almost alluring. "Even Mr. James was smart until he made the wrong choice." Daniel let out an awkward, nervous laugh. "Well, I don't want to be like him." "I know," she purred, stepping closer. "You're special. In fact, you're exactly the kind of man I would like to marry." Daniel's eyes widened in disbelief. "Marry?" "Yes," she affirmed, her gaze fixed on his. "You're young, strong, and you have a good head on your shoulders. And you have secrets I need to protect." Daniel chuckled nervously, disbelief coloring his voice. "You're joking, right?" Martha shook her head, her expression dead serious. "Let's be serious. If you marry me, you'll never lack anything again. You and your sister will live like royalty." Daniel paused, weighing the offer. Life had been relentlessly cruel. If marrying her meant comfort and food, perhaps it wasn't such a terrible proposition. A silly grin spread across his face. "All right," he conceded. "I accept. Martha's smile deepened, a chilling triumph in her eyes. "Good," she purred. "Let's celebrate your new life. I'll make pepper soup, my special one." She walked inside and returned a few minutes later, bearing a steaming bowl of pepper soup. "Eat," she said sweetly, pushing the bowl toward him. "You'll need strength for our future together." Daniel took the first spoonful, a delighted laugh escaping him. "This smells too good." He ate quickly, ravenously, but before he could finish, his face contorted. "My chest, my head, what's happening?" His hands began to shake, his eyes rolled back. Martha stood slowly, leaning close, and whispered, "You talk too much, Daniel." He collapsed to the floor with a soft thud. Another one gone. She dragged his body inside and meticulously cleaned the front area. She was used to it now. Wash the spoon, discard the bowl, mop the floor, burn the clothes. But what Martha didn't know was that Daniel had, in a moment of desperate honesty, told his younger sister where he was going. Martha felt safe again, believing no one would come looking for him. Yet trouble was still brewing, a quiet storm gathering within the walls of peaceful rest. That same night, one of the elderly women, Mama Abun, knocked on Martha's door. Mama Abun was weak in body, but her spirit, hardened by years, was surprisingly strong. "What now?" Martha snapped, opening the door a mere crack, her voice laced with impatience. "I want to go home," Mama Ebon said quietly, her voice trembling slightly. Martha let out a loud, mocking laugh. "Go home? You have no home, you old witch." "I have family in another village," Mama Ebon insisted. Martha cut her off with a dismissive wave. "Liar! You were begging on the street. No one wanted you. I picked you up like a dead bird." "I just want to leave," Mama Ebon pleaded, tears welling in her eyes. "You will leave. When you leave this world," Martha spat, her face contorted with malice, "you will perish here like the others. Poor old fool." She slammed the door shut in Mama Ebun's face. Mama Ebun turned slowly, tears still streaming, but a fierce fire now ignited in her heart. She knew now, with chilling clarity, Martha was the devil in human skin. 2 days had passed since Daniel had left the house, and his sister, Blessing, was now consumed by fear. He hadn't returned, he hadn't called, and he hadn't told her anything else after his last words. "I'm going to see Martha. I want to get money from her." She had searched everywhere, his friends' houses, the local football field, even the overgrown bush path behind their compound. No one had seen him. Her heart was a restless, throbbing ache of anxiety. Finally, she decided to do what she had been dreading. She marched into the bustling village market, her steps purposeful, and went straight to Martha's meat shop. Martha, busy attending to customers, saw Blessing approaching. Her eyes instantly turned cold, a flicker of alarm in their depths. Blessing offered no greeting. She didn't sit. She didn't smile. She simply pointed a trembling finger at Martha and shouted, her voice echoing through the market. "Where is my brother, Martha?" The market went quiet. Every conversation ceased. Heads turned, eyes wide with curiosity and concern. "What did you say?" Martha asked, feigning confusion, her voice calm despite the rising tension. "My brother Daniel," Blessing screamed, her voice cracking with emotion. "He told me he was coming to your place. He said he was going to get money from you. He said he saw something about Mr. James and wanted to talk to you. Since that day, he has not come back. Where is he?" Martha blinked slowly, then let out a dry, dismissive laugh. Oh, you've grown wings now, have you? Blessing stepped closer, her voice thick with desperation. I know you did something to him. Martha's voice rose, filled with indignation. What have I done? You poor people are always shouting, always accusing me because I'm successful, because people love me. Her eyes welled up, producing perfect fake tears, crocodile tears, and she began to cry loudly, dramatically, for everyone in the market to witness. What have I done wrong in this village? I feed the poor, I take care of the old, I mind my own business, and this is how you thank me? She dropped to her knees, wailing. I have suffered. I work day and night to serve this village. Is it a crime to be kind? Immediately, some of her loyal customers rallied to her defense. One woman shouted at Blessing, You should be ashamed of yourself. Another man added, Your brother is a grown man. He must be hiding somewhere drinking. Leave this good woman alone. Someone else chimed in. Don't bring your family problems here. Blessing looked around, utterly aghast. Everyone was on Martha's side. She was shocked. Martha is tricking you, she cried, her voice breaking. She knows where my brother is. But no one listened. Martha, still sniffling dramatically, wiped her tears and slowly stood up. I forgive you, she said quietly, her voice laced with feigned pity. You don't know what you're saying. Blessing shook her head in disbelief. Defeated, she turned and walked away, hot tears streaming down her face. She had no money, no power, no voice, and most crushingly, no one believed her. Meanwhile, behind the shop, inside the locked freezer room, Daniel's body lay cold and silent. Another secret added to Martha's long, gruesome list of victims. That night, Martha sat on her bed, a triumphant smile playing on her lips. They will always believe me, she whispered to herself. I am their angel, and fools like Daniel will keep falling. As the market closed that evening, two of Martha's regular customers were walking home, carefully carrying their meat in plastic bags, conversing quietly. I don't believe what that girl said about Martha, one man scoffed. It's just poor people making noise. I agree, the other replied, nodding. Can't you see how beautiful Martha is? She's clean, intelligent, respectful. A woman like that cannot murder anybody. The first man laughed, a harsh, dismissive sound. Exactly. If someone like Martha agrees to marry me today, I will send my illiterate wife back to her village. She's been disturbing me since morning. I'm telling you, the second man concurred, shaking his head. Let poor people stay out of rich people's lives. I will still eat her meat tomorrow, he added proudly. Nothing will stop me. They both laughed, their voices fading into the encroaching darkness, utterly unaware of how terrifyingly close they were to the chilling truth. But someone else was not laughing. Blessing. Even though everyone had mocked her and labeled her a liar, she refused to give up. That night, armed with only a small torchlight, she began her own meticulous investigation. She wrote down every detail Daniel had told her before leaving that day. He was going to Martha's place. He saw Mr. James's car there. He believed something was wrong. He went alone. She knew. Began asking quiet questions in the surrounding area. She spoke to an old man who sold sugar cane by the roadside, a silent observer of the village's comings and goings. Slowly, painstakingly, she pieced together small fragments of the truth. The old man confirmed. I saw that Jeep too, but the next day it was gone. Why didn't you tell me all this? Blessing pressed, her voice urgent. I thought it was just business, he replied, shrugging his frail shoulders. And even if I spoke, nobody would believe an old man like me. After speaking with the sugarcane seller, Blessing had no doubt left in her heart. Martha was undeniably behind Daniel's disappearance. She could have broken down and cried. She could have chosen to remain silent, overwhelmed by the daunting truth. But she didn't. That very afternoon, Blessing marched straight to the village square. The market was a cacophony of voices, people chatting, selling, buying, and laughing. Blessing climbed onto the central stone, a makeshift stage, and screamed with all the strength her lungs could muster. "You are eating human meat!" People turned, their conversations dying. Blessing pointed dramatically towards the road. "Yes, the meat you buy from Martha. She cooks old people and sells them to you." Murmurs erupted, followed by shouts, then widespread confusion. "What are you saying?" someone demanded. "Have you lost your mind?" Another cried out. Blessing continued, her voice rising above the din. "My brother went to her house and never came back. Mr. James and his wife are gone, and the old people, they just keep disappearing. You people think she's a saint. She's ending innocent lives." Some people laughed, a nervous, disbelieving sound. Some covered their mouths in shock, but many refused to believe her. "She's mad," a man declared. "That woman is just jealous. She should be arrested for saying this rubbish." But a few others remained quiet, their minds working, remembering. "I haven't seen that old man with the walking stick lately," one whispered. "And what about Mama Kai?" Another added, "She was there last week. Where is she now?" Blessing didn't stop. She left the market square and went straight to the police station. There, she recounted everything to the officers, what she saw, what her brother had told her, what the old man had revealed. The police officer at the front desk yawned, bored. "Do you have evidence?" he asked, his voice flat. "No," Blessing replied, her heart sinking. "But at least investigate." One officer stood up. He was tall, dressed in dark glasses, and exuded an air of dismissive authority. "We have more important issues than chasing lies," he stated, his voice condescending. "You young girls are always jealous of successful women." Blessing looked at him closely. There was something in his voice. Too defensive, too personal. That's when it hit her. This officer was one of the men sleeping with Martha. He would never help her. Blessing walked out of the station, tears welling in her eyes. But this time not from fear, but from a fierce, burning anger. "If the police won't help me," she said quietly to herself, her voice hardening, "I'll do it myself." And she did. For the next few days, Blessing secretly followed Martha. She borrowed a small phone with a camera. She hid in bushes. She climbed trees. She watched. She recorded. She saw Martha dragging a wheelbarrow, covered with a cloth, into the bush at midnight. She saw her cook huge pots of meat the very next day. She heard Martha laugh alone, talking to herself in chilling whispers. One night, Blessing crept as close as she dared to the kitchen window and pressed record just as Martha spoke. "You will all perish here," Martha's voice hissed. "You're just like them, useless and wicked. Useless old fools. Nobody will look for you." And then, a chilling, self-satisfied smile. She finally had it, the undeniable proof. The very next morning, Blessing returned to the police station, this time her phone clutched firmly in hand. She played the audio recording. The officers who had been chatting idly fell silent, their expressions turning grim. Then she presented the pictures. Martha dragging a large, suspicious bundle, the same distinctive cloth, the identical path leading into the bush. The officer who had previously dismissed her with insults now stood quiet, his face pale. The female officer beside him snapped to attention. "We're going there now," she declared, her voice firm. Within 30 minutes, police sirens wailed, and officers stormed peaceful rest. Martha was inside, calmly chopping meat when the sound reached her. She stepped out, feigning an air of composed innocence. "Ah, officers. I hope there's no problem." "We're here to search the place," one officer stated bluntly. Martha forced a fragile smile. "You don't need to open the back room," she began, a hint of desperation in her voice. Another officer barked, "Open it!" Martha faltered. Her hands began to tremble uncontrollably. Still, with a deliberate, agonizing slowness, she walked to the back door and unlocked it. What the officers and a few accompanying townspeople saw inside made everyone gasp in collective horror. Human body parts lay chillingly, preserved in freezers. Frozen hands, gnarled and old, were scattered amongst other items. Old slippers lay in a corner. Names, scrawled on cloth tags, hinted at individual tragedies. They found Daniel's torn shirt, Mr. James's distinctive wristwatch, and even an old, faded photograph of Mama Ebun unsettlingly in a cooking pot. Martha dropped to the ground, her composure finally shattered, and began to wail, genuine tears now streaming down her face. "They hurt me first," she cried, rambling incoherently. "Old people destroyed my life. I only took the ones who had no family." But the police showed no mercy, no understanding. She was arrested on the spot. In court, Martha told her story, a twisted narrative of past torment. How her grandfather had brutalized her, how the old men had subjected her to unspeakable horrors, how she had been left without parents, without help. But the judge listened, his face impassive, then slowly shook his head. "You were a victim once," he pronounced, his voice grave. "But now you are a monster. You destroyed innocent people. You lied. You took innocent lives. You fed human flesh to the very people who tried to help you." His gaze was unwavering as he delivered the verdict. "You are sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole." Martha screamed, a primal sound of rage and despair, but no one listened. As she was dragged out of the courtroom, her eyes swept to the back, where she saw Blessing standing, a solitary figure. Blessing offered no smile, no gesture of triumph. She simply mouthed 2 words, barely a whisper, "For Daniel." Later, the 6 elderly individuals who were still alive in peaceful rest were rescued. The government relocated them to a proper, well-maintained home in the city, where they received dedicated nurses, nourishing food, compassionate care, and genuine love. One of them, Mama Ebun, raised her frail hand and declared, her voice filled with profound gratitude, "Blessing is our angel. She saved us when the world had forgotten us." And everyone in the room clapped, a wave of heartfelt applause. Martha was never seen again, and the people, finally enlightened, knew that not everything that smells sweet is safe to eat.